Hello traders, welcome to the Nexoel Trading Hub YouTube channel. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the weekly forecast for the coming week. And I'm really sorry I couldn't release a forecast for the previous week. I was really having a very busy schedule. So this is dollar index and this is the weekly time frame. I've been making reference to the weekly bearish fair value gap, how we are to expect to see price will trade into that to fill up that. And what we can see clearly is that price have traded into the weekly bearish fair value gap, and the market has filled up the bearish fair value gap. We saw how price mitigated the monthly bullish fair value gap. Price took out sell side liquidity, in extension this pool of sell side liquidity, and then we can see how volume traded back to the upside. We can see rejection after the mitigation of the monthly bullish fair value gap, and we start seeing the weekly candles trading above the high of the previous weekly candles with volume closing above. So I further told us to expect to see more bullishness to the upside, and we may see price trade even far above the weekly bearish fair value gap volume zone into this candle week, because in the daily time frame we're going to find out that we have the daily bearish fair value gap zone, and we can see clearly how price traded to the upside. So what we can see here is, due to the fact that I'm seeing that price have mitigated this monthly bullish fair value gap and we are seeing this price movement, what we can see is that volume is not really strong to the upside, but yet we can see that for the previous 4 weeks we have bullish movement to the upside, filling up this bearish weekly fair value gap. And what we can see is, when price here mitigated, we really do not have a rejection to the downside. Price further traded more to the upside, and what we can see is we had this rejection to the downside, but volume did not really trade back to the downside. So we have the possibility that this weekly bearish fair value gap may not hold price. We may further see bullishness to the upside. So that is what I'm expecting to see, the possibility of what bullishness to the upside in the dollar index, except otherwise price decides to now trade to the downside. But what I'm looking at from the weekly time frame is the fact that we can see here price mitigated the fair value gap, return again mitigated the fair value gap, and another mitigation of the fair value gap, and we're not having momentum to the downside. We're still having price taking out the previous weekly candle high points. So we may see the possibility that price may keep going higher to the upside. So here in the daily time frame, what we can clearly see from the daily time frame in the dollar index is how price here mitigated the weekly bearish fair value gap. So we can see here the daily bearish fair value gap, and price traded into that, and we have this return to the downside. And what we can see is we are having rejection to the upside. Price will return to this base zone, because here we have a rally, a base, and a rally, which also is within the mean threshold of this weekly bearish fair value gap. So we may see the possibility of continuous bullishness to the upside. We have here a buy side liquidity, a drawn liquidity here to the upside. Let's check the 4-hour time frame. So here in the 4-hour time frame, what we can clearly see from the 4-hour time frame here is we can see how we're having this bullishness to the upside, structural bullish movement to the upside. Now we have price return, fill up this liquidity gap here in the market, and we can see how price have been ranging at this liquidity gap zone after price return to mitigate that. So we have the push of price fell to continue bearish, price again went to the upside, fell to the downside, fell to continue bearish to take this low, price push to the upside. Internally here we have market structure shift, and we have this failure swing here to the downside. So it is either we see that price may return here to the downside and trade more bullish to the upside, mitigating this bullish order block, and we have bullish continuation to the upside into this 4-hour bearish fair value gap, and we may further see bullish continuation to take out this buy side liquidity and also this buy side liquidity. Or what we may see is that price may trade to the downside here, since what we can see here is price return into this bearish fair value gap, and we're seeing this rejection to the downside. So we may see price return to the downside to seek this as a sell side liquidity, and here we have this bullish order block. So price may mitigate this zone, and we have bullishness to the upside. What am I really saying? For the dollar index, I'm looking at this possibility that price may return to mitigate this bullish order block, and then we have what, the bullish continuation to the upside. Or we could see price may trade to the downside, taking out this sell side liquidity, and we're waiting to see how price reacts at this bullish order block. If the reaction of price at this bullish order block gives us a buy reason, then we have what, bullishness to the upside. Except price then violate this 4-hour bullish order block, then we may see bearishness to the downside. But this is what I'm looking at in the dollar index. I'm looking at this possibility occurring in the dollar index, because we can see here price respecting this liquidity gap. Price mitigated that, push to the upside, price fell to continue bearish to the downside to take out this low. We have this impulse to the upside. So this is not really a clear market structure shift. It's more of an internal structure, market structure shift. So we may see price return to react at this bullish order block, and we have bullish continuation into this 4-hour fair value gap, and in extension we have this buy side liquidity resting here. So either we have this occurrence in the market, or we may see price continues to the downside to take out the sell side liquidity. Then we have to wait to see the reaction of price at this 4-hour bullish order block. If this gives us a clear buy model, then that is when we are going to be what, bullish in the dollar index. So this is what I have to show us, guys, in the dollar index. Let's check out the Euro USD pair. So this is Euro USD. You know, I've been making reference to this institutional order flow. I told us we wanted to see price take out this buy side. Upon the mitigation of this, then we could see bearishness into the weekly bullish fair value gap, and we can see the delivery to the downside. Price mitigated the weekly bullish fair value gap and dip more lower into this candle with just the way we also saw in the dollar index. In the lower time frame, like the daily time frame, we're going to see a bullish fair value gap in the daily time frame. So price mitigated that. Here we have volume close below the consequent encroachment of the weekly bullish fair value gap. Since we're expecting the possibility of bullish continuation in the dollar index, then we may see bearish continuation in the Euro USD. Yes, we know that the Euro USD is bullish and the DXY is bearish, but the most recent price delivery in the dollar index is bullish, and the most recent price delivery in the Euro USD is bearish. So we also have to consider structure, yes, and then we also now have to consider volume. What is the current volume? So what we can see here, price have traded below the consequent encroachment of this weekly bullish fair value gap. So we may see bearish continuation, but then we have to look at the lower time frame. So this is the daily time frame. What we can see in the daily time frame is we have this drop zone, base zone, and drop zone also. So basically this is the base zone, and we can see price return to the base zone, mitigated the base zone, and we are seeing rejection to the downside. And clearly this rejection, what you can see is that volume is failing to close above the consequent encroachment of the weekly bullish fair value gap. So we have the possibility to see this act as an inversion fair value gap to further sponsor bearishness to the downside. So that is why I said we may see the possibility of what, bearish continuation in the Euro USD. Since also we are expecting the possibility of bullish continuation in the dollar index. Let's check the 4-hour time frame to look at this narrative clearly. So here in the 4-hour time frame, price return mitigating this 4-hour bullish fair value gap, which is within the daily bullish fair value gap. And we can see this is an institutional order flow. This is the sell movement before the buy movement to the outside that took out this high point. So you can see that the most recent price delivery is bearish to the downside. Just the way in the dollar index, we're going to see that the most recent price delivery is bullish. So here we have that, yes, price mitigated the sponsorship zone, this bullish sponsorship zone, and we have this bullishness, price return into this rejection block, and we had this bearish movement to the downside. Price pullback into this bullish fair value gap, just mitigated it with just a tap, and then we had this bullish movement, but failed to take out this high, and now we had bearish momentum to the downside. So what we can see is the possibility of what, bearish continuation to the downside. Here in the 4-hour time frame, we have this rejection block to the upside. We have this rejection block here, and what we can see is that we have this 4-hour bearish fair value gap. So we have to look at and see how price reacts at this 4-hour bearish fair value gap. If that gives us the sell model, then we want to continue selling to the downside, because here we have the fall price push to the upside, failing to take out this high, and the bearish momentum to the downside, taking out this low point. So it is either we see price gives us a sell model from this 4-hour bearish fair value gap and we have bearish continuation, or we look at price reaction at this rejection block. So price may seek the buy side liquidity, and then we may have the sell model at the rejection block. So if we do not have the sell model here and price decides to go bullish, then we know that now the Euro USD is giving us the tendency to just continue to the upside. Let's check the 1 hour time frame. So here in the 1 hour time frame, so this is the 4-hour bearish fair value gap zone. So what I'm clearly saying is we have to wait to see if this gives us a clear sell model, then we want to sell to the downside. So if we do not have that here, if price trades to the upside, then we may see price seek this buy side liquidity. And what you can see is the rejection block from the 4-hour time frame. Here we can see we have this bearish order block in the 1 hour time frame. So if our sell movement doesn't hold from here, then we may look at the possibility that the model may be formed at this price zone, and then we have the bearish continuation to the downside. So price violating this zone here means that we are going bullish in the Euro USD, and then that may change the narrative in the dollar index. So this is what I have to show us, guys, in the Euro USD pair. Let's check the GBP USD pair. So guys, this is GBP USD, and we can clearly see the delivery. I told us to see price take out buy side, and we have sell movement into this weekly bullish fair value gap. This is a weekly time frame, and clearly we can see that delivery to the downside. So what we can see here in GBP USD is quite trickish. We can see similar delivery here happened. Price dipped into this weekly bullish fair value gap, and then we have bullish movement to the upside. So here we can see here price dipped into this weekly bullish fair value gap, and we can see the rejection to the upside. Volume closed above that, unlike Euro USD where the volume closed still within the weekly bullish fair value gap. So GBP USD is quite trickish. It's not really that clear. We could just see price gives consolidation before we could see the possibility of price continuing bullish or price dropping to the downside. But basically what we can see here is that price is giving us the possibility of bullishness, meaning that is affecting the narrative we saw in Euro USD. So clearly now the DXY would give us a clear picture to what we could anticipate in the GBP USD pair. Let's check the daily time frame. So here in the daily time frame, what we can see in the daily time frame is price traded into the weekly bullish fair value gap. So we can just see that, yes, we are seeing this bearishness to the downside actually, but from the weekly time frame, it's not really as clear as this. So we can just see this choppiness. Price is not really given a clear direction here. Price mitigated the fair value gap and traded above it. So GBP USD is not really a pair I would want to really consider till I have a clear and clean delivery or picture to where price is heading to. But then since we're expecting to see the possibility of bullishness in dollar index, then I may look at the possibility of bearishness in GBP USD. Looking at this bearish delivery to the downside, though price here is choppy. Let's check the 4-hour time frame. So here in the 4-hour time frame, what we can see is the bearish movement of price to the downside here. If I'm to trade bearish in GBP USD, then it means I want to see price falls to the downside. First, I'll be looking at this high point here. So this will be the high point I'll be considering. So let's check the 4-hour time frame. So in the 4-hour time frame, what we'll be looking at then, if we're going bearish, is to see how price would now give us the bearish reaction to want to fall to the downside, meaning in lower time frame, we want to look at the bearish model. So clearly we can see price created this high, drop to the downside, relatively equal low, sell side liquidity here, price drop to the downside here, taking out sell side. What we can see is that price took out this buy side here. We have price to cut that buy side, and we can see we have this fall here. This is the sell movement that sponsored this bullish movement that took out this buy side also. So we have a change in state of delivery here, and price have returned to the upside to mitigate this bearish order block, and we're seeing this fall. So to this fall now, we can see that here volume closed below the sell movement before this bullish movement. So we have a change in state of delivery here. So we could see the possibility of what? Bearish continuation. So if I'm bearish, if I want to take a bearish movement, when I see a clear bearish model, I'll be looking at how price reacts here at this candle wick, because I believe in a lower time frame like the 1 hour time frame or the 15-minute time frame, we may see a bullish order block here. So I'll be looking at the model that may be formed here. If price gives a sell model from here, we may see price trade like this. If price in lower time frame gives me a sell model, I'll be selling to the zone before considering the possibility that price may continue to the downside. Let's check the 1 hour time frame. So here in the 1 hour time frame, what we can see in the 1 hour time frame is this. Yeah, so you can see I told us we could see a bullish order block. So we can see this is the sell movement before this bullishness that further took out this high. Price dropped to the downside, taking out this low. Price return, failing to continue bullish to take out this high. And now we're seeing price trading to the downside. So what we can see here is price may seek this buy side liquidity here. So price may seek that, and we would wait to see the reaction of price at this zone. If price gives us a clear sell model at this zone, then we'll be looking at selling. So my first target sincerely will be this order block here. I'll be waiting to see how price reacts here. And if price reacts with a bullish momentum, then I'll be considering to see how the bullish momentum will go bullish. It is either going bullish to sell or going bullish to then continue bullish to violate this, and we have bullishness. So this is just my expectation in GBPUSD. So it means that I'll be looking at delivery that would happen Monday. So if I want to be a seller, I'll be considering the zone. I want to see a sell model here to make me be a seller. So I'll be waiting to see a clear sell model here in the 15-minute time frame, the 5-minute time frame, to then consider bearishness. And my target is going to be this bullish order block before any possibility of bearish consideration. So meaning if this gives us a strong impulse to the downside, then we may see this react to give us a pullback and a bearish continuation. So this is what I have to show us in GBPUSD. Let's check out the USDJPY pair. This is USDJPY, and this is the weekly time frame. So clearly we can see price have traded into our bearish fair value gap here in the weekly time frame, and we can see this rejection. So sincerely, the delivery is really trickish, because from the dollar index we're expecting to see the possibility of bullish continuation, and we can see in USDJPY that the dollar index, basically the USD, is the base currency. So it means that if we're expecting bullishness in the dollar index, so we're expecting to see USDJPY trades to the upside. But now from what we are seeing from the chart is that we have this rejection to the downside. So this is quite trickish from the weekly time frame, because price have mitigated the weekly bearish fair value gap, and we're seeing rejection to the downside. So this basically, when you're looking at it, is giving us the possibility to see that we may have what? Bearish continuation to the downside. But then I told us that we're expecting to see the possibility of what? Bullishness in dollar index. So we just have to be open-minded. We could wait to see how price trades on Monday. That would help now strongly establish what we are to expect then in any of the pairs in relation to the dollar index. So for the coming week, due to the perspective in the dollar index, we may see the possibility of what? Bullish movement to the upside. That's we can possibly see from lower time frame. So here's the daily time frame. So yes, in the daily time frame we have what? Bearish delivery to the downside. But what we can see, let's use the trend line and see. So what we can see using the trend line, what we can see is that price broke through the trend line. So this could be a fake out to give us now a return to the downside. But because of the expectation in the dollar index, I told us we may see what? Bullishness also in the USDJPY, except there is a change of narrative in the dollar index. So we have this bullish fair value gap in the daily time frame. So clearly I'll be looking at that bullish fair value gap. We have this low point, so price may take out this low point, mitigate this fair value gap. So whatever reaction we get from this bullish fair value gap will determine if we are bearish or bullish. So if we have strong volume trading to the downside, then we may see bearishness to the downside. But let's look at the 4-hour time frame where we're going to see structural perspective to that. So here in the 4-hour time frame, what we can see is this bullish structure, and you can see that we have what? A bullish trend to the upside. So we have a bullish trend to the upside, though we established that we saw bearishness from the daily time frame. Let's get to the daily time frame. So you can see in the daily time frame we have this bearish delivery to the downside. So we can see that the USDJPY in the broader perspective is bullish. Price gave here a failure swing, expecting to see the possibility that price would take out this high, but then price failed to do that and came to the downside. So price did not take out this low that sponsored the movement that printed this failure swing point. So we could see what price gives us, what bullishness to the upside. So let's get back to the 4-hour time frame. So here in the 4-hour time frame, we can see here we have bullish delivery looking at this trend line. So if this trend line keeps holding in respect also to this daily bullish fair value gap I pointed our attention to. So you see in the 4-hour time frame, we have the possibility that price would aim for the sell side liquidity, because here we have relatively equal low points. So we may see this delivery in the USDJPY. We may see price drop to the downside here, and we may have that buy model. So we'll be buying to the 4-hour bearish order block. So whatsoever happens at this bearish order block will help us determine if you're going to see strong bullishness to the upside, or price may react here and give us bearish movement to the downside. But this is what I'm expecting to see in the USDJPY pair, because we can see here, looking at the trend line, we have a bullish trend line here, structural delivery here, price broke this, we have the sell side liquidity, price established relatively equal lows here. Daily time frame bullish fair value gap, which price may seek the sell side liquidity, and we have what's bullish continuation. Here we have the bearish order block, price mitigated the fair value gap, give this bearish reaction. So this is my expectation in USDJPY, except then price decide possibly to give us bearishness to the downside, which is also going to be based on whatsoever happened to the dollar index. So this is what I have to show us in USDJPY. Let's check out the gold pair, and that brings us to the end of the weekly forecast. So this is gold, and this is the weekly time frame. So what we can see in gold is price have dipped into the weekly bullish fair value gap, though we can see that price have not mitigated the volume of this bullish order block, and we're seeing volume trading to the downside. Price took out buy side. I will start seeing bearishness, though we had bullish movement to the upside. Price still traded to the downside. Volume trading below the high of this, and even below the high of the volume of this candle that took out buy side liquidity. And here we can see we had the open price here. All we had was bearish momentum to the downside into the weekly bullish fair value gap. So from the weekly time frame, we can clearly point out what we'll be expecting, except the fact that we have that price have not dipped to mitigate the volume of this bullish order block. So what you can see is that gold is what's bullish. The trend in gold is really bullish, but we are having what bearish delivery to the downside. So when we have the violation of this order block zone, that is when we could see the possibility that gold turns strongly now bearish. But then we have a temporal bearish momentum in the gold pair. So let's check the daily time frame. So here in the daily time frame, what we can see, I've been making reference to the zone where I wanted us to see how price would dip into the zone, and then we have buy movement to the upside. Yes, price have mitigated that zone because this is the high that sponsored bearishness that took out sell side liquidity and now bullishness. So price have dropped to the downside into the weekly bullish fair value gap and into this daily bullish fair value gap. So the truth of it is gold is not really so clear at the moment. Either we should go bullish in it. So we just have to trade gold with reference to the next zone that gold may trade to. So we possibly take entry to that zone and wait to see what gold reveals. So what am I trying to say? If you're bullish, instead of being extremely bullish, then you want to be bullish to this zone where we have this drop, base, drop. So you want to be bullish to this zone. You have to wait to see how this price react here. It means from lower time frame, if you have a clear model to go bullish and then you're bullish, your target should be this base zone. So what happens is that this base zone will reveal to us if price is going to continue bullish, or we may see price again dips to the downside. Because what we can see is that from the 4-hour time frame, let's get to the 4-hour time frame. What we can see from the 4-hour time frame is we have a failure swing here. Price return to the downside, seeks the sell side liquidity. So the possibility is to see the possibility of momentum to the upside, breaking this high. But then price failed to do that, and then price traded to the downside, taking out this low that was created. So what we can see, we have this failure swing. So for us to be strongly bearish, price has to take out this low. That is what will help us establish a strong bearish direction. So what we can now see is now price have reacted at the daily bullish fair value gap, the weekly here, and what we can see is price gave us this bullish movement. Price traded back to the downside, but now what we can see, we are seeing the possibility of bullish movement to the upside. Price seeked all the sell side liquidity resting here. So if we are bullish and you have a clear bullish reason, then you want to go bullish to the zone. Here we have this 4-hour fair value gap, and what we can see is this is the base zone we marked from the daily time frame. So you can see we have this fair value gap alongside the base zone. Let's get to the daily time frame so that you can see that. So you can see it here, meaning we have this bearish order block resting here. So let's get back to the 4-hour time frame. So for the gold pair, if I see a clear buy reason, then I want to buy gold, and then at most I want to take out my profits here, or possibly look to see price takes this buy side and we have this other buy side. So, and that can now be where I would have to watch and see what the delivery would be if price is now going to create a sell model to continue bearish to the downside. So for gold, I'll be looking at the two scenarios. If I'm bullish then, and I see a clear model in lower time frame, then I want to trade bullish to this level, to this zone, and then wait to see what happens before I would consider the possibility of a long-time bullishness to the upside. Else we could see price gives us a sell reason here once price seek this buy side liquidity. So we could see price trade further to the downside to come mitigate the volume of the weekly order block. So we could see that possibility that price would trade to the volume of the bullish order block. This is a sell candle before this bullish impulse to the upside. So this is what I'll be looking out for in gold pair. If I'm bullish, I would really want to wait and see a clean, clear model from lower time frame. If I have a reason to go bullish here, possibly in lower time frame, I may see price creating bullish trend within this delivery, then I would want to go bullish to this zone, and then watch out to see what happens here. If this would give a sell model, then I would want to sell from here to the downside. So this is my expectation in gold. We've identified zones, except price decides to just give this bearish movement. Maybe when the market open, price just decides to dump to the downside. So you have to be open-minded when trading. No one is really absolute in the market. So you have to identify zones, probable zones. You know, there are times that price, when the market opens, may not really return to your zone, and then it just move before we now begin to work with the narrative that the delivery when the market opens creates. So I want you guys to really be open-minded when looking at the market. So basically, this is what I have to show us in gold. We have this failure swing, which may give us the possibility that price may trade to this zone, and we have a sell reason to the downside. And we are bullish. Price have mitigated a bullish fair value gap zone. So we could see this keep pushing to the upside. So just be open-minded. If you're bullish, please buy to this level and see what happens here before you consider if this is going to be a long-term bullishness. If you're bearish, let's look to see what price does here. But if it happens that price continues bearish from this level and tanks to the downside, then we have to wait to see and look forward to a retest in respect to a sponsorship block, and we continue to the downside to the weekly bullish order block open price. So cheers and God bless you all.